We have countries like India where inflation is higher, where there's an increase of minimum wage every year. Things like theft and pilferage are part of the industry. As humans, we have to accept that change is constant. We build technology for the world. We train commercial pilots for large airlines. A human resource will always try to find an easy way out. I think in India we have a problem of plenty.
Hello there. Welcome to yet another episode of Speak Clean, brought to you by Clean India Journal. As we promised earlier, here again is a discussion that will teach you a new lesson in how to strategize and be successful. Well, here's a clear example that is running in the news today. 900 engines of Kia Motors, boom, lost. This is a massive test and daring too. But more importantly, it's a crack in the strategy, in the security strategy, that is the most important aspect. And today, we are going to discuss about this strategy. This is all about the 99% perspiration that Thomas Edison spoke about those days. And strategy is nothing less than that. Strategizing involves planning, involves failing, involves succeeding, involves replanning and getting it right. And if you don't get it right, is when you have a Kia Motor case. Today in our studios, we have a very dashing and a dynamic personality, Anuj Rajain, the Chief Strategic Officer of Tenon Group, and he is heading the India and Singapore offices of Peregrine Security. Welcome to our studios, Anuj.
Well, thank you, Mohana, for having me over. My first podcast, so
Wow.
really exciting.
So glad to have you here today. And I know you had some meetings in the morning before you could come to the studios. And I'm sure you also heard about this strategic planning which happened at Kia and which possibly failed.
Well, you nicely pointed it out. It's things like theft and pilferage are part of the industry, but not being able to detect them for such a long period of time is something what I saw was as a shocking scenario in case of Kia Motors. Uh, Multiple breakdowns at different level, not what you would expect from a multinational automobile manufacturer based out of India. uh, we typically as Indians take lessons from our counterparts globally, and I think in this case they may need to take some from the local partners.
But I think the trust that they lay on their partners who are offering the security services is much more. And possibly a lapse or a breach of trust. So I think the service provider plays a more important role to ensure this kind of, I'll call it a tragedy actually, shouldn't happen.
You're absolutely correct. Well, I come from a security background, and this is a huge news for us, where we were not able to detect something for such a long period of time of such a size, and it was not as if that the theft happened from for a small nut and bolt. These were engines, uh, big things to be taken out of a factory or an assembly plant. What I feel is a breakdown of strategy or process for Kia. Uh, a lot of times what happens is a client says, I know best and this is what I want from my partner, and we as service providers succumb or agree with those thoughts shared by our clients. I think this is a perfect example where when we say that let the experts do their job, play comes in handy. This is literally the perfect example where if an expert was told what should be the right apparatus or SOPs, they would have been able to do some justice than what has happened right now.
But I think that happens across, whether it's facility management or security. It's always the boss is right. So when a client says that no, and possibly they are looking at the cost factor, if you're going to include so many other points into it, the expenses go up. And there's always in India basically that rules the contract.
Well, that's not just India, that's globally. all of us have a budget to follow. The budgets keep on shrinking. We have countries like India where inflation is higher, where there's an increase of minimum wage every year. In such cases, the increase of minimum wage is way more than what a budget would typically support.
Okay.
Uh, and that's where we typically say, let us work with what we have and not think creatively or constructively. Uh, Manpower is a very unique industry, and I think that's a global phenomena where someone or human resource uh, will always try to find an easy way out. In case of Kia or in case of such situations in India, I would have said have a man machine amalgamation where you have a checker and a worker to assess what's happening and checking that as well. I think that's the breakdown that happens in India.
I get your point, what you're saying. But Kia, of course, is one example. I think you must have seen so many such more examples in your lifetime.
Absolutely. I One of these challenges or one of these examples that I remember from my childhood, because I work in a family business, a multi-generational business. My father started it, and I've always been very close to him and the business as well. Uh, I remember as a child there was a designer who had pilferage in his workshop, and this is one of the higher end designers of India. And one lesson I learned from that was, or how we detected this pilferage, was keeping your eyes and ears open and keeping them as close to the ground as possible. I think that's been the learnings from most of similar cases that I've detected in any of the industries that I've looked at. We as professionals, we as leaders like to uh, look at situations and circumstances from a 4,000 feet or 40,000 feet view. Vis-a-vis, what we really need to do is be on the ground, see what's happening. Um, I feel that's what I would take as a lesson from each of those instances that I would have seen.
So, but this is not you. Of course, it's more of a manpower when it comes to security. And there is so much of involvement that you need to have. It's one thing that you put it on paper, you strategize, and it actually nobody likes change today, to be very frank. And so, if you're going to unlearn and relearn, use those new technologies and tell your workers that please do it this way, there's always, two steps behind, and there is also something to relearn, and which is a challenge. So I think you have what, 65,000 workforce, and I know you are named as the people's man for what you have been doing for so many years. So how do you make them do what they have to do?
Well, I think one thing that we keep as an ethos, or what we do is, or what we have in mind is, change is constant. Uh, it's not just right now. Even if you were to talk about 100 years ago, uh, when, again, a perfect example comes from automobile industry, when Ford had put an assembly line where they had created a structured process of assembling or manufacturing vehicles, it was a huge change. The workers, when they used to manufacture a car, each worker or each group of workers or individual technicians used to work on one single car. Ford put in a process where there was each person had a dedicated task in working on a car, and maybe 100 to 200 people touched the same car and doing different tasks. That was a change. Uh, People needed to be retrained. People needed to be upskilled. There were, I think, hesitation, and I think as humans we have to accept that change is constant. Uh, One thing, again, I'm an army kid. Uh, I've seen my father in different spheres of life. So one thing I've learned, and I think I've learned it recently, not too long ago. In army, it's a constant effort of upgrading technology, of moving ahead, trying to be better than your peer or your competitor, if you may. What they do is they plan, they prepare, they test. They test different strategies. They feel that the devil's in the details, and I think that's what comes in handy when in situations like these, when handling a large set of manpower. Uh, Human tendency is to find the easy way out.
Great.
It is our job to ensure that if we are working with someone, we get the best output from them. Sometimes it's by motivation, sometimes it's by technology. uh, we don't or we There's a lack of appreciation of technology and tracking things. I think we use technology for way more complex tasks, that we've forgotten how simple things can also be dealt with technology.
But I think you're talking about technology. I know that uh, there are AIs and drones today which are being used so increasingly in the security division. And if you are going to tell your operator, learn it this way, unlearn what you did, and you have to relearn this, it's not going to be easy.
Absolutely. uh, we've faced those challenges many a times. um, we've got At times there have been client mandates where the client has specifically said that I want to go on that technology journey. At that point, we don't have an option of not teaching the resource or the human capital on the new thing that they have to do. Uh, the good part about India has been we're very good at upskilling and relearning.
Yeah.
Unlearning, maybe not, but relearning or learning new capabilities is something that we've really been efficient at. And that's what really comes in, I think, handy for us. That's probably an edge for us as compared to other countries that we work with or we get business from.
So that's part of your strategy.
Oh, absolutely. I think 2 years ago attended a drone training.
Oh,
Up until now, then I didn't really know that in order to fly a drone, you would need a license.
okay.
I thought drone is fun. It's a hobby. You go to a hobby shop, you buy a drone, and you fly. No, that's when I got to know it's way more than that. While we have countries like US that say we're gonna do drone based delivery, in India we've been talking about drone based security. We're talking about drone based assessment evaluations. Some are very easy. You go to a warehouse, you train a person on how to use a drone, you get that person to do a drone based surveillance of a warehouse. Then there are more complex ones like going to an automobile assembly unit or going to a solar energy farm where challenges would be very different. So, what we've been doing in this case is creating case studies, creating SOPs, and on how to use a drone or use AI or use even robotics for different purposes.
So all your strategies get accepted?
Not at all. No. I think if I were making 10 strategies, probably two would get accepted. But then it's my job to try.
So who gives the final go?
um, the two different stakeholders for me in internal, I would say my senior leadership, which also includes my father. For externally, it is the end user client. And one thing I've learned and I've learned to live with is the fact that I don't have adequate gray hair. Sometimes you need that to ensure that your voice is heard.
Papa is the final authority.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So अब डरते हो पापा से?
Not really, no. I'm scared of my mom more than my father. um I didn't think he was strict. And I think he always wanted to be that elder friend that you would want to have, that you would share things with. So I think in my entire life, yet my journey with my father has been very, very uh, focused towards being friends rather than being a parent and a son. And I think that's really helped me a lot while working with him. Uh, Good days, bad days, I know he's still my friend.
That's nice. But There's always, you're entering into a business which is already a set. You have your father, you have your elder brother who have already established themselves globally, and you entered into this scene almost a decade back. How was that feeling?
I was living in US. Uh, One fine day, I get a call by my brother that my your dad and I are coming to US and we're gonna visit you. I thought that's something they do on I think a quarterly basis to meet people, their relationships in US. That's what they were doing. But in reality, they were coming over to tell me that there's an opportunity for you in India to come and work for the family business. Uh, I was reluctant, but then I thought the difference I would make in my own business would be way more valuable than working for someone else. So I thought it's a very good decision. Move back to India, move work with the family business, uh, learn, grow, not realizing that it was a very good sales pitch that they had made in US. Vis-a-vis when I came back to India, there was, I think, a lot more challenges or hurdles to cross. My first day itself was very exciting. Half the people in my office didn't know me. Um the HR person who was inducting me gave me a manual of, I think, a file of presentations and information I needed to read about my own business. So that itself was interesting because I thought I knew my business.
Okay.
It's mine. Um, but yeah, it was very interesting. Um, I think one good decision my father made, I wouldn't say it was my decision, was to put me through an 18-month induction program to learn about the business or relearn about the business. Um, I would be the night supervisor for a site in Chennai. I was the housekeeping staff for a college in London. I was the auditor for one of our businesses in Singapore. The good part that came out of it was that I really learned from the bottoms up. I understood what the challenges were on the ground, so that if tomorrow I really had to be doing those tasks on my own, operations heavy tasks, uh, no one would be able to take me for a ride. I would really know what's going to happen or what is happening on the ground. Uh, Again, I think a lesson from the army, because any new fresh army officer has to spend time with his platoon or his team to one create that bond and know what it is all about. Uh, Difficult 18 months, but a good life lesson, a good business lesson.
That's, I think you have started right from the grassroots levels and learned it through. Has been a point when the Victoria, I don't want all this.
Many a times, yes. I think there was a time I was in Singapore, and I think it was during COVID. Uh, Travel was restricted. Uh, During COVID, the situation of businesses working from home or going in a hybrid model was coming up, and a lot of our clients would want to explore that opportunity. At that point, I didn't think I had an answer in terms of what to do, because I had just been given the responsibility of heading our Singapore business. Uh, Being young, not having adequate experience under your belt, not having gone through any such business pivots or challenges, I think that those 3 months were probably the most difficult ones I had. Uh, the good part is I always had my brother, I always had my father to take counsel from, to look up to take advice if what I was doing was right or not. Uh, Although my father did promote the fact that you make you make decisions, you make mistakes, you learn from those mistakes, so that you make better decisions in the future. Uh, but yeah, those 3 months is something where I really try to practice that. Also knowing the fact that it was my own business, whatever decision I would make would impact me.
I think that was a time when everybody had to, learn something new and face every situation. And Of course, some of them made it, some of them did not make it. And it's so nice to hear your candid thoughts about, how you came about going ahead from where you were. And yes, those moments when sometimes if you, no, it's not going to happen. Let's not do this. Forget it. And those are some moments which we need to tide over and come up to build a successful business. Tell me actually how different it is, doing services in Singapore and in India.
Well, a fair bit, I would say. I think in India we have a problem of plenty. We have a very young population, a very large population to employ. On the other hand, Singapore is a very small island country. There, they've learned how to maximize the utilization of each human resource that they employ. Uh, they're more structured. They focus on output based business model, vis-a-vis in India we focus on manpower based business model.
I think that's a big challenge which we are not getting over. Even in FM, we face that situation.
It's a challenge that we face in India, and I think majority of the industries. We do security, we do facility management. Uh, it's been 30 years since we've been doing it, and there've been very, I think I would say, handful of times when I would say that we've actually said that let's just focus on output and SLAs rather than manpower. Uh, it's a challenge. It's something that I think we are learning. Uh, but we've gone on that journey of learning, but we've not reached the end point or end post, which is something what a country like Singapore, a country like UK, I would say mature economies are focusing on. They want the right value out of the resource, not how many resources you're employing.
You're talking of so many countries. So you are established the securities in so many countries?
Well, yes, we started the journey from India in 1995. We actually just celebrated 30 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We started as a physical security business in India. Over a period of time, we diversified and we ventured into facility management, and that's when we started the journey of also becoming a homegrown multinational. uh, we acquired facility management businesses in UK. We acquired security business in Singapore, and the objective was again to learn from these mature markets the best practices and incorporate them in India, because come what may, we know the scale and size you get when you operate in India, you can't get in any of these places. What you can get is better structures, better processes.
How much of that learning have you been able to successfully implement in India?
Every day is a new day. Um, we try our best, but I would say we're doing good. We're doing 60-70% of that. Uh, One good thing I would say about India is technology. We build technology for the world, so uh, we've been able to build technologies and then captured those processes or those structures in those on those platforms. India is also a very young population, which means that our ability to adopt technology is way faster than any of these other countries. So that has helped us a lot. Uh, we launched a technology platform to monitor our own operations back in 2019. I think we were probably one of the first ones to do that. As on today, I would say our tech adoption rate is probably in high 90%.
Wow. That's a big mark that you're giving.
It is an, I would say it's a 6-7 year long journey. Um, there were a lot of times where we realized that what we were doing might not be the most efficient way. So again, planning, testing, tweaking the model, pivoting to a different strategy. We've been very nimble on our feet when it came to tech adoption, and that's really helped us a lot. We realized a lot of efficiencies come in play, a lot of structures come in play, better service delivery comes in play when you adopt technology.
30 years, that's been really long. So, what are the various activities that you have expanded into?
started as physical security. That was the bread and butter, and that still is the largest chunk of our business. Uh, I think it all came from the fact that my father had served time in the army and police. One thing he knew best was security. The other thing he knew best was man management.
You have now 65,000. How did you collect all these people?
Well, that's an interesting question. Yes, 65,000 just in security, um, all across India. Um, I think we do something like 16,000 pin codes.
Oh.
One good part of that is when you have such a diverse operations network, you are literally in every part of the country, every village. Sourcing people becomes easy. Training them is difficult, but getting them to say that we have a job offer, would you like to work, is the easier piece.
So, what is the attrition rate now?
Well, India is still an agrarian country. So when it comes to the harvest season, the attrition is higher. But I would still say we have an attrition rate of about 45 to 50%.
That is high.
Well, yeah, it's an agrarian country. When it comes to, I think the key harvest season in UP, in Bihar, in Madhya Pradesh, in Punjab, Haryana, we have this cyclical attrition. So people go back to their hometowns, their villages for that period of time. Uh, what we've noticed is that after the harvest season gets over, those people, I would probably say 80 to 85% of those people come back to work.
Oh, that's very interesting.
So that's what I say, that while we have cyclical attrition, when you see a security guard or a facility management staff, if you look at their journey, you would notice that they have been working in our company or in the industry for a long period of time.
And that's where you slowly graduated into facility man. I think that was the demand that was growing in the 2000 year.
Yes, I think 2000 as a decade was very important for India. That's where the IT's boom happened in India. That's where the industrial boom also happened to a certain level. A lot of multinationals came to India, set up their base here. Uh, we I think we had the vision of identifying those sunrise sectors quite early on and being part of their growth journey. And that's just helped us scale our business operations quite substantially. Diversification has also been, I think, a derivation of the same development or same movement. We had always been doing other activities other than security services. We had drivers, we had concierges, we had delivery boys. Um we never really classified them into a separate business or classified them as a facility management
You're
business.
also into aviation, if I'm not wrong.
We are also into aviation. That's a recent, I think, venture for us. 5 years now. We train commercial pilots for large airlines in India.
That's a
So,
very sophisticated business.
well, yes, I think it's all about that also involves handling large chunk of resources. The difference is in security and facility management, the people are your employees. There are security guards, facility management staff, technician. In aviation, it switches to students.
Do
So
you fly? Did you learn?
I have not learned. I have not had the courage or the heart to go and learn. I have flown a couple of times with my father, a couple of times with my brother as well. My brother is learning. My father's a hobby pilot. Uh, I think it's the first flight I had with my father that ensured that I made the decision of not learning how to fly.
Okay, that it was that bad.
It was his last day of his training. I think the next day he had his exams, and we were in UK, in southern part of England, and a very rainy, very windy day. We go up in the plane up into the air, and that itself is a journey for me.
How old were you then?
Not too old. I think I was 20.
Okay.
What shocked me was the fact that my father's trainer, while we were up in the air, said, "Let's practice emergency landings." I think that just scared me. Those, I think, 5 or 6 engine offs and plane taking that dip was just told me that I'd rather fly a commercial plane than be flying my own plane.
Oh, but that must have stayed a real big experience in your life.
Absolutely, yes. But aviation, again, is a sunrise sector for India. Again, I think we've been fortunate enough to get identify those markers. India, as a country, has a growing population, increasing number of airports. The Indian government has been very supportive with Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme as well to expand the aviation or air connectivity between India. And with the recent plane orders by our two largest airlines, has only solidified that mindset.
Anuj, for some rapid fire questions to you, who's your role model?
I would say my father.
You're being diplomatic.
I would have said my grandfather. That would have been my first pick because uh, I have a lot of similarities between my grandfather and I. Uh, my early years, I spent a lot of time with him. That's probably when I think when I was of age to understand things is when he had retired from police force. So I was able to spend a lot of time with him.
Okay,
Uh,
what would be the one thing that you would do when you're highly tensed?
if I'm at work, I would just go for a drive. Although driving in Delhi is not the most relaxing affair, uh, but if I'm at work, that's the easiest, I think, stress buster for me is to be on the road, put some good music on in the car and just drive. If I'm at home, I would still put the music on, but the change becomes is that I make Lego. That really, really relaxes me. That really allows me to take a step back and not be in that stressful or tensed environment.
What is the first thing that would do if you find your security guard has made a big mistake?
The first thing I do is check if there's any if security guard is all right, if there's anyone else involved, if someone else is there all right, and then my first thought is to mitigate whatever situation is, and then do an RC and fix so that we don't have such a challenge in the
Don't
future.
you scream at them?
Not really.
What if the client comes and yells at you because of one security guard?
I would say the security guard is my employee. His mistakes are my mistake. I am in the position of ensuring that they don't make mistakes, or if they make mistakes, they don't repeat them. So there have been a lot of times where the client has screamed at me. Uh, it's taken a lot of time and patience to build that kind of, I think, gut and strength to ensure that if the client screams at you, you don't
React.
have a spillover to the client or to someone else. Um, but yeah, I feel you are a leader. You own up for those mistakes.
What do you want to do or become in the next 10 years?
Well, I've put an objective for myself and for my company. I think this also comes from the fact that my brother and my father have a lot of confidence in me. Uh, we are in India, we are in UK, we're in Singapore. We run a services business that is manpower intensive, and we also do technology. My 10-year objective is to, I think, turn the story around and say that we are a technology company that also does manpower related services. Uh, I feel 10 years is the right amount of time to make that switch.
But India has to move in that direction too.
It has to, and I think India is adopting a lot of those technologies quite swiftly. I think the best example is ChatGPT. I've I've not seen that kind of acceptance rate that we have in India in any other country. Indian mind is very agile in terms of such developments.
Okay, something that comes very easily.
Yes, absolutely. We are the land of farmers. We're the land of engineers.
Nicely put. Okay, your last question here is, what are the three things that a security company should have to become the best security service provider?
I would say one thing that any and every security company has to be is uh, have strong trustworthiness and integrity. Uh, these things are very binary. It's either 0 or 1. Either you have the integrity or don't. If you are dealing in security, I think paramount is having that trustworthiness and integrity, because people are putting their faith in you for their assets, for their lives. So that is probably the most important aspect, a point for me. I would say then would be ability to accept change. Uh, I've seen the security industry while being in it for 10 years now, and broadly for 30 years, since that's the amount of time we spent in this industry. Uh, we have been a very manpower intensive industry. Over the years, I've seen we've had to push ourselves to adopt technology. Unfortunately, security industry has been a laggard when it came to technology adoption. While we've been very advanced and very proactive in accepting things like 10-minute delivery, we've not been that proficient in saying, why don't we bring in a digital attendance management tool? A very basic thing. Uh, but in order to be a success, what got you here probably is not gonna what's gonna take you there.
Right.
So ability to accept change and accept it with open arms is something any successful security company would have to embrace. And the last piece is, I think, fairly linked with the previous one, which is tech, not only adoption, tech innovation. Uh, in India, we have companies or multinationals from all across the world. Uh, we cannot say that one mold or one model fits all.
Correct.
We have to work with them, understand their challenges, make them understand our geographical challenges, and create a more uh, acceptable tech solution in that way. So that's something that we have to think, that we cannot create one large platform and say it's going to work for everyone. We have to work each time, customize it each time for each partner we onboard.
Right. Great. Thank you so much, Anuj. It was wonderful speaking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me over.